Hello everyone, the Kentucky Patriot here. We're back out on the range today with once again the topic of shotguns. One, I love shotguns. I think they're fantastic. They're so versatile in so many ways, but from home defense to hunting applications. But anyway, I specifically want to talk today about shotgun recoil or the lack thereof. And I think a lot of times people shy away from the shotgun because of the myth of the excessive recoil, and I'm gonna try to discuss and maybe explain a little bit. So if you say I talk too much, I'm sorry, but I have to explain what we're doing today and why we're doing it. Now, this is the reason I wanted to kind of talk about shotguns. Is I think a lot of times, especially new shooters, new homeowners, younger couples, maybe somebody's getting into firearms, or maybe an older couple, but realize, crime, they want a good home defense weapon. They say, I'd like to have a shotgun because the effectiveness of it. However, the recoil, I'm a little afraid it's going to be too much for me, too much for my wife. And that's what I want to talk about today, because now don't get me wrong, a shotgun can produce a lot of felt recoil, especially if you go like with 3-inch turkey load, 3.5-inch Magnum shells, some of the buckshot slug rounds. But if you've watched any of the videos at all that I've done with the 12 gauge with birdshot, it's proven more than effective. Those of you that may have never watched any of my videos before know this. I'm a funeral director and embalmer by trade. Over 20 years, I've worked with several funeral homes, mortuary services, coroner's offices, medical examiners. So unfortunately, I have seen a lot of actual shootings in real life. But on my videos, if you've watched, I've shot a lot of meat targets, water jugs, and we have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that birdshot is effective both in 20 gauge and 12 gauge. But we're specifically talking about 12 gauge, and the reason I'm bringing this to you today is not everybody can afford Daniel Defense home defense rifle. So a lot of times they're looking for an option that's more affordable, but then when they start looking at the shotgun, they think, well, the recoil is going to be too heavy for me or for my wife, or I'm going to shy away from the shotgun because of the strong recoil. But I'm going to show you today with some birdshot, and I'm gonna get the shells out. First, I'm gonna start with the target rounds. And you say, well, those target rounds are ineffective. Go back and watch my videos with the meat target and the coconut and different things, how effective that light, low recoil birdshot is. But I've got some other rounds too. But I wanna show you that you don't have to necessarily shy away from a shotgun. Now, this one has a buttstock on it that's padded. This is just this is the Nova from Benelli. You can also get Mossberg's really quality shotguns without breaking the bank. And that's why I really want to do this video today, because I want you to see that you can afford a shotgun, a good home defense weapon, and it's not going to hurt your shoulder. Now, without making this video too long, we do understand, you don't want to have this somewhere it shouldn't be. You don't want it in the center of your chest or way over here on your arm. You don't want a gap out here where it can come back and hit you. You don't want it close to your chin or face. But as long as you put this shotgun in your pocket where it's supposed to be, that's a whole different video for another day. But as long as you get used to it, you lean forward, you get used to shooting a shotgun, I'm telling you, it's not going to hurt your arm unless you have shoulder issues, arthritis, or shoulder surgery. But my wife's not only shot birdshot, she has shot slugs, buckshot, turkey loads. So like I said, you don't want to probably start a beginner with this, but after you get used to putting the buttstock where you're supposed to, when you get used to the presentation, when you get out to the range and realize it's going to be loud, but it's the actual felt recoil, and I'm going to demonstrate here in a minute, really isn't going to be that much. So I'm going to load it up with some shells and talk to you about the rounds, and then we'll get to some shooting. We're going to start out today shooting the Winchester Super Target 12 gauge 7.5 shot. This is light target load. And before you jump up and say, oh, that's not going to do anything, that's not going to do anything, go back and watch the videos, like I said, of me shooting a coconut, meat targets, and meat target is ribs, water jug. It's a literal representation, as close as we can possibly get, of what a human target would be. And watch the devastating effects, watch how well it performs. Now, we understand birdshot's not going to be effective at range, so we're not talking 100 yards. We're talking home defense situations, hallway, living room, bedroom, when your life and your family's in danger, okay? But here we are, 12 gauge, 2 3/4, 7.5 shot, and I'll show you how light this recoil really is. Now, I understand chokes A lot of people ask me just real quick, well, what choke? Well, today this is my home defense shotgun. It was actually used for home defense shotgun, but it's a great choice if you do. And it's certainly sitting by my bed as a viable option, but it's not my primary weapon. But anyway, when you ask about chokes, mine of course is an open bore, but chokes make a huge difference if you're duck hunting, turkey hunting. You're wanting to keep that pattern tight at long distances. Your chokes really aren't going to be an issue at 10 feet because your pattern's not going to be spreading out. You're not going to have a long way. You're talking literally when the shell hits, a lot of times you'll just see one hole or maybe just one or two pellets over here. It's not going to dissipate at room distance. So chokes, don't worry about it. It's not going to matter at home defense. If it's hunting, patterns yourself, it's a big deal. So open bore, my Benelli 12 gauge, 2 3/4, 1 1/8 ounce, 7.5 shot. Let's see how she does. And there's no trickery. There's no sleight of hand here. What I'm going to do is get 3 of these shells out. And I'm going to show you that indeed they are the low brass. Just 7.5, your typical box store, Walmart, everywhere you go, you're going to be able to easily find these shells. And I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm just going to load 3, but you'll get the idea. Now, normally you wouldn't do this, okay? But I want you to see, instead of me putting it to my shoulder, I'm going to show you with just hold it in my wrist here, literally how light the recoil is of a 12 gauge shotgun. This is just my wrist holding this shotgun. You ready? Now, I'm not trying to come off as macho or tough, or my wrist isn't sore. It isn't hurting. I didn't get off camera. You know, I'm telling you, I fired big bore revolvers that was, you know, you could really feel it after you had fired the round. Literally, I could have fired that whole box and not felt any pain. If you notice, really, this hand, my left hand, was just working the action and the pump itself. I had all the recoil in this hand, and this isn't a good solid grip. This is my wrist in an awkward position. Nobody fires a gun like this, so this is an odd position, but it didn't hurt my wrist. It didn't sprain it. It didn't pull it. It didn't twist it. That's how easily you can handle a 12 gauge shotgun. Now, make sure that you go to the range and you're with somebody that can show you the proper technique. Please don't try this at home. I'm not doing this for anybody to try to replicate. I'm just showing you how light really the recoil is of a 12 gauge with the right loads. I mean, if you even hold the shotgun by yourself like this, you don't have a real strong grip at all. It's an odd motion, but that's what I'm saying. If that would have been excessive recoil, there's no way that I could have done that. So I'm going to load it up again with some other shells, some other rounds. Let's say you do want to move up the scale. Let's say, you know I saw with my own eyes on your video, I watched the Kentucky Patriot shoot the 7.5 target rounds, but just for me and my family, I want to bump up the scale a little more. I want to have something with a little more power, a little more oomph, a little more knockdown. Well, I'm getting ready to demonstrate that as well. Even though I felt like I proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the 7.5 target loads is more than effective at close quarters, home defense range type close quarter combat, realistically, and you've heard me say this years ago if you watch my older videos, in using birdshot, I like number 5. I recommend number 5. So this is probably more realistically what folks are going to be using. So this is probably, if you're using birdshot for home defense, is the rounds you're going to probably look at. They're high brass, so there is going to be some more recoil. They're 2 3/4, but it's 5 shot, so you know it's not quite the small tiny pellets of the 7.5 or 8. This is number 5, so the pellets are getting bigger. The high brass, there's going to be more power, more knockdown. So this is probably what folks are looking at in the home defense birdshot category. So I'm going to, again, load this up, do the same drill, and show you that number 5, even though it's more powerful, the high brass, the bigger pellets, the recoil is still not going to be to the point you can't shoot it, okay? So we'll load some of these up, and we'll get to some shooting. Again, there's no trickery, there's no sleight of hand, there's no camera tricks here. I wouldn't do you that way And like I said, I'm not trying to talk you in or out of a shotgun. I want what's best for you and your family. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your neighbors say, what you should have. It's not about an image or being macho or being cool. This is literally about protecting you and your family. And you can get a quality shotgun at a very reasonable price. And I'd much rather somebody defend their home with this as to go to smaller handgun caliber, something they feel like they can handle that maybe wouldn't defend them nearly as well as something like this. Again, if you've already got a Daniel Defense and you got your AR-15 or a rifle and you're rocking it, well, good for you. But if you can't afford a rifle or some of the higher priced, even the ammunition, these are so much cheaper. Shotgun rounds are so much cheaper than a lot of your rifle rounds. So I just want you to maybe see as we demonstrate today that this may be an option that folks have dismissed or thought I can't handle, when in reality, you may want to take another look at the shotgun. Let me turn, make sure the safety's off. We're ready to fire. Same drill as before. These are the high brass. It's going to be more recoil, but look at my gun, look at my wrist. Nobody fires this way. This is an odd angle. Nobody fires this way. But if I can do it this way, I'm telling you, you can against your shoulder with the right loads and the proper training. You ready? In conclusion, I'm not trying to be tough or macho or show off or anything, but if I can hold it like this and shoot those rounds, now literally I could have shot the 7.5 all day like this with no issues. Now the high brass, there was more recoil, but I could have shot that whole box and my arm still wouldn't be hurting. I'm not going to be sore in the morning. I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't believe I've done that on camera. Now I'm really paying for it. There's no ill effects. Like I said, anybody that's ever shot a big bore revolver, and you know how your hand will just sit there and ring and sting sometimes, like, wow, that felt recoil. You're not going to get this with a shotgun. And like I said, a lot of them come with a pad. Now this one's actually not much of a pad, but my son's 20 gauge, I got him the youth model. His pad is so soft, it really cushions the blow. You can get different butt stocks on here. So even with the recoil that I showed you that really wasn't that intense, by the time you get a soft butt pad, you put it in the right place, you lean into it, I'm telling you, you can defend yourself and your family with a high power, quality weapon that can neutralize the threat instantly and not have to worry about recoil. Like I said, if you're a first time shooter, you may want to go to the range with somebody you trust, somebody, you know, find you a good instructor, find you a good facility and get used to it. But what people are afraid of is what they've heard, the myths they've heard, and then that big loud bang, they think, oh, it's really going to hurt. But like I said, you've seen it here. It's really not that bad. And like I said, I'm not pushing the shotgun. I don't care if you do or don't use one, but I don't want you to count it out if recoil was the reason, because I hear that a lot. I'd love to have a shotgun, but I'm just afraid of the recoil. The recoil's too much. My wife can handle a shotgun. You might want to take another look. Don't listen to everything you hear. Research, look, try it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions. Like I said, I have nothing toward the shotgun. I don't own no stock in any shotgun company, any ammo. I'm just trying to help you. I want you and your family at the end of the day to be safe. That's what counts. That's what's important. I wish you and yours the very best. Appreciate you watching. Do me a huge favor. Would you like, share, and subscribe? Check me out on Instagram, Facebook. May God bless you. The Kentucky Patriot signing off.